Hello everybody, the Lord Root here, and welcome back to another KSP tutorial. Today we are going to be in the process of building a space station. I guess the first question is, what makes a space station in KSP anyway? Well, it turns out a lot of things do, and that's a really interesting thing that you can turn just about any spacecraft into a space station. It's dependent largely on the symbol you use. However, that isn't a naming deal, and you'll be able to set that when you launch. However, it's worth pointing out that there are things that we can do that make a functional space station. So the first thing to do is to go down here to the utility parts, and you will see this PPD-10 hitchhiker storage container. This is more or less a crew pod. It holds 4 people. Now, you may decide, for instance, that you want some nifty things on here. For instance, like a cupola, for instance, is a good thing to have. Also, reaction wheels are generally a good thing to have for orienting the station. And if we go here to the cockpits, we can put this cupola on here. Now I'm going to build a small ladder in between, and the purpose of this guy is to allow our Kerbals to move in between this cupola module, which will be facing the nadir side. That's the side that's facing Earth. And it'll allow us to do things like, for instance, let's say we want lights on here. Not a bad thing to have. Well, what we can do is we can take this guy up here, for instance, and put him up top. And hopefully that will not block the exit. That's a good thing to test, by the way, if it'll block the exit or not. But we want a light here so that, you know, we can come on down and see our craft. So let's just test this real quick. We'll put Bob, and I still haven't rescued the other people from the orbit. We'll put Valentina down. So, the question is going to be, can we come down this thing? Also, we should look at the EVA module here. It's pretty nifty, or the IVA view, the cockpit view. This will be perfect for our window here. Anyway, we'll see maybe if we can come back up. And it turns out we can, so we'll go back to the VAB. There are other things we might wish to put on here, but one thing that I do want to note is that whenever we build this, there's really 2 ways to build a space station. You can build a monolithic space station, or you can build a modular space station. A monolithic space station is where the station happens to be in one piece, and it's okay, but it's kind of boring. So, what we should really do is go to the structural here. We can take this guy and start building out the modular space station. You have, this adapter here, and then this hub as well. And I'm going to hit W to turn this the right way up. You can see this guy is already getting pretty heavy, but this is going to be where our guys meet up. Let's strut this up some. If I find a good place, I believe this to be an okay place for us to put the struts. And we can take these big docking ports here. Now there's actually a number of ways we could do that. The big docking ports are nice because they afford stability. If you're playing career mode and you don't really have access to those, another option is you could take something like this tri-coupler here, and you can go to the utility and take these medium docking ports here, and you can hit symmetry, and you can have a docking port kinda like that. But that's harder to dock and it takes up more parts. So the main thing is you want these guys pointing to the outside. And we can do that now. Now there's a minor issue with that, so what we're going to do is we are going to take this one guy here and we'll push it out some with one of these adapters. That's where these flat adapters really excel. And I am just going to hook it into the body, like so. We want this guy to be relatively immune to flux, and that's part of why we're doing this the way that we are. Maybe something kind of like that, where it comes in the center. Because flexing is going to suck, at least just a little bit. Let's take this guy. We want the outside facing like that, not let me just turn it around. If we're doing like this, then you'll notice you have this little thing here that's not going to allow us to dock. So we can grab this guy now. And I wonder why it's not letting us duplicate this. My guess is that maybe one of these guys is in the way. What you can do, a little trick you can do for that, is you can stick something in like this. I guess that's not going to work, unfortunately. But in that case, you can click Alt and you can duplicate the part. So now I can turn it around like so. And I can bring these guys out. And dock them here. So it's usually a good idea to have a central hub like this. And your Kerbals will basically, you'll send things up. I'm going to call this KSS-1 for Kerbin Space Station 1. Now we might as well, while we're here, begin working on some of the other modules. But we're not going to ship this thing up all by itself. You'll see why here in a bit. So some things we might want are, for instance, it'd be really nifty to have some solar arrays. And so we can take these girder adapters here and some of these long beams, and we can make some solar arrays with those, some high I guess high capacity solar arrays. And I believe what I could do here is I could put another docking node there. So you can see we're going to run into problems already. This, first of all, launching this thing is going to be difficult, just not even based on the mass, but also based on the fact that we have this solar station here that, or not the solar station, the space station that is very unwieldy. We would need a huge fairing in order to put it in, and we might be able to do certain things like, I don't know, we could, we could get these guys out here like this, and maybe, on the top here, I'm gonna put 2 of these solar arrays, and I'm thinking, you know what we'll do, because I believe this is more or less centered. We will take this guy and we will copy it with Alt. And we can even put batteries there. This is actually, one of the things I've learned is that this is actually probably overkill. Let's put some batteries on that storage array there. If you grab this Z4K, that holds 4,000 charge. But I'm thinking this thing's gonna look awesome with its power like that, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to strut it up, and we can sort of manually figure out where we want everything to go. So for instance, if I want something kinda like this, and we'll just move that out of the way there. Now we can do things like we can go up to our action group. So I'm going to make 1, control the solar panels up here, and we'll just toggle those panels like so. And you can build whatever you want on there, but make sure you have docking ports so that you are able to extend in whatever direction you want, and do be mindful of your part count, because that limits the size of your station in a sense. And we'll probably be back here in a bit once I build out the rest of the station, although there are a few things I want on it. I definitely want, before I go, we need power, of course. So I'm going to get 2 of these arrays here and stick them on the side. So this is more or less what I've come up with. There may be a few things we can do, like maybe we want some power generation at night, so we can go here and maybe on our power big deal. We can slap on some RTGs. That could be fairly nice. I haven't action grouped all of this either, so, you know, sky's the limit. But this is 95 parts, which is actually rather small, and it has a bunch of things which really do make sense to have in a space station. So, for instance, I have added here this science lab that will be useful in processing our science experiments. You can get bonuses that way. I have power here. Did not throw on an antenna, which we may want to do. So I'm just going to do that now. I'm going to take this guy here and stick him on like that. And just one of them will do. That guy's massless. And, you know, there are other things as well. So, for instance, we might want to put lights on as well, or maybe we'll want to put on, you know, some science experiments. You know, things like that would make sense to grab in the atmosphere. It's just really a matter of what looks good to you. And if we take a look at the center of mass of this thing, it's actually way back here. This is 106 tons, 107 tons actually. Even if I take all the fuel out, this is some 30 tons, which, you know, it's not impossible to launch. But, it could be quite difficult. And, you know, there are other things, too, about it, like the fact that these guys are not going to fit, let's just take a fairing and prove this. You know, this guy obviously does need to go into a fairing, and let's take our largest fairing. If we go like this, we cannot go any further with that fairing, so, you know, we have no choice but to take this guy and break it up into parts. But that's okay, because it's not really going anywhere. And, really, you want this to be as easy to reach as you can make it, and to offer as much supplies. So, you know, Jeb, for instance, will want, you know, Jeb will want this guy here, to be filled up. I've left him in orbit, and he can dock to this station at any time he likes. So there's one more thing we need to put on, too. While I am thinking about it, we do not have anything in the way of a computer core. And I'm just going to go to the pods here. I am going to take this LO1 unit here, this big guy, turn it upside down, and this will allow us to fly with our jets on. And something weird has happened here. Let me just move this guy out of the way and try again. But this will allow us to make sure that the station keeps attitude. And we can just imagine, because there's crew transfer on here, that the Kerbals will have these little corridors they can go through. But yeah, everything, I believe, is almost action grouped here. You can toggle the panels like this. And You know, now it's just a matter of how do we get it up into space. That's not such an easy thing. I'm gonna take Valentina out real quick. This guy can already hold 7 Kerbals as it is, and we may wish to expand. Well, the way to do that is for us to go and we'll take this guy here. We will save it as a new file. We'll call it KSS1 core. And we will go here and remove all of these modules that we worked so hard to build. But that's actually not going to be a bit of an issue because, you know, we saved these guys. So now this is down to a 9.2 ton core, which is more than manageable, and we'll save this guy real quick. You can see here that if we look at our station, it is completely built there. So now we need some things to help us while we are in orbit. And probably the most important thing, at least to my way of thinking, is for us to build a tug that we can utilize to move things around. On the ISS, they don't take that approach. On the ISS, what they do is they have these little, they have these cranes and, you know, berthing arms and things like that. And we'll go ahead and take that because this will serve 2 purposes, really. The first is going to be that if we go here to our structure, or utility rather, we're going to grab us a small service bay. And that is worth 0.3 tons. We can stick everything that we need for this end, so you know, we'll have maybe something kinda like this, to where we have batteries are usually good. RCS storage is usually not a bad idea either. So we'll have ourselves a little bit of RCS. We will put down a probe core. And this one is good. This one has a reaction wheel built in. Although we will definitely need a stronger one. And maybe batteries wouldn't be a bad idea. The idea behind this is that we're going to keep most of this hidden. Although there's numerous ways to go about it. I mean, the one way you could do it, of course, and probably a more compact way, is that you could take this guy here. You could put a probe on it, maybe a large probe, and you could maybe do something kind of like this, to where you have I'm going to take the structural guy. This guy will double maybe as he'll double maybe as a docking node, which is right. It's pretty convenient to have something like that. And we'll just take this, we'll reroute the parts real quick. And we'll take this guy off, and let's, just for the time being, think about what it is that we're going to do. We have a 13-ton craft now. And if you want to have an idea of how much delta V this thing has in it, there are these little RCS engines, which I'm not going to put on this craft, even though it actually does make a fair amount of sense. But you can take these guys, stick them on the outside like that, and we have 472 with that. That's compared to this. So, this is pretty good for moving stuff around. Oh, and you know what? We'll leave those on there, and we will give them stage 2. That way, you know, we'll just do the station keeping jets. We'll take those off. And there we go. In fact, I'm going to take the RTGs off too, just to decrease the mass a little, because we have plenty of battery power here. So, this will be what we'll put up into orbit. I will build a craft, and then I will show you, once we get up there, how, this thing is meant to work. So I will see you then. Okay, just briefly, I wanted to cover what I'm doing with this rocket here. You'll notice here that we have a fair amount of delta V here. And, part of the issue is that we have this massive burn time here. And, you know, maybe one of the things that we want to get around here is we need this extra fuel tank, partially to get into orbit, because we have these guys here at stage 2. We are going, or stage 5, we're going to jettison these guys. And we'll just take that off real quick. Maybe there's a stage firing there that should not be. And then we've got these guys over here as well that we want to take care of. But, you know, we want to save some of that stage maybe for possibly adjusting our orbit. So one thing we can do here is we can go to the fuel sources, and we can grab this external fuel dot, and if you click on a tank with it, then what will happen is that the tank you click on, or no, it doesn't even have to be a tank, it could be any part, but that tank that you click on compared to this tank right here, the destination tank, this guy will now pump fuel into this guy. Other things I wanted to show you as well. This is a multi-stage rocket, of course, and maybe for the first time we have this upper stage here that's not a transfer stage. It's just there for us to do its thing. I have the engines on it turned down real low, with the hope that, you know, maybe it'll fall into orbit on its own, or fall out of orbit. And we'll have to try that, because we don't want to create space debris, of course. At any rate, this is what we've got, and, I will see you when we get into space, probably whenever we're about to fire that one stage. Anyway, I will see you then, less in orbit. Maybe need to head back just a little bit. There we go. That's more or less what we want. And I'm just going to pop this guy on off here. The ejection force may be a bit much, but when you do this, you want to make sure you're pointing retrograde, of course. And if we follow this guy in, its orbit should begin to decay. Even though we had a ton of fuel on this, it's worth noting that, it's good not to use the fuel on the tug, because we will not have another opportunity to deal with that. So there we go. We're within braking distance. And we have ourselves a space station of sorts. All we have to do is go up here to rename vessel, set this as a station, and call it KSS1. Now, to make docking easier, and also because I want that cupola module pointing towards the nadir, I am going to point this to the south. It should be fairly easy for us to dock. In fact, this isn't quite pointing at the nadir as such, but we can get an excellent view of just about everything here. Let's make sure the lights work, because that's important, right? If we hit U, then we should have a pretty good view of everything. So, let's just... Oh, that guy's still coming down. Not for long, though. It's a shame to waste all that Delta V. But anyway, I will deorbit this guy. And, we'll get back to launching some of the other vessels. So, we are back now in the VAB, and it's probably a good idea for us to consider how we are going to get this thing off of the rest of the station off the ground. Well, it was a good thing we saved our parts here. In fact, I'm going to make this a sub-assembly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this guy here. I'm really going to do two things. I'm going to maybe call this the Titan. It does kind of resemble a Titan C. So we'll call this the Titan E. Then we'll say medium lift vehicle here. And we'll take this guy, and we'll call this the Kicker, maybe. So we can go back here now. We are not going to save this because maybe we will want to launch another one day. And let's go back to our station. Now, out of all of the parts, it's somewhat difficult to figure out what should be added first. I think, however, we might do well to get this fuel store up. And so what we can do is we can take that guy, we can create a separate rocket for each one of these. I'm just going to go back here. I'm going to use the root tool. I'm going to click on the docking port adjacent to this. And Now you know we should be able to take the rest of this. I'm going to call this the KSS-1 fuel store. We will take out all of the RCS. In fact, the RCS should be all that's left of it. We can take this guy here. And we know that this guy is going to be the one facing our docking port. So we have a couple of options here. We can leave it alone. Or B, we could maybe, knowing that, we could grab this guy up here and make that the top. Now that is how many tons? 13 tons, which incidentally is about the capacity of our launcher. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to find the fairings somewhere, maybe put down a decoupler. This should, if we take the kicker here, this should give us a fair amount of delta V whenever we attach ourselves to it. 760 meters per second, which is not bad at all. And I'm going to take this Titan E, like so. And that's actually plenty to get us up there. We can, given the amount of delta V we have, I'd have no issue whatsoever with taking this guy and bringing it down a smidge. And what I'll do now is I'll take one of these adapters here, the stack separator. Make sure it's on nice and nice and tight like that. We'll move this guy down, and I'm thinking whenever we jettison this guy, that's when we will fire the rockets. Now, of course, my staging's all messed up here. And that is, I guess the new KAR does not quite know how to handle that. But we'll put on a nose cone. And, hopefully, if we take this guy here, this is which one? These guys need to be staged properly. We'll do like that. And maybe even put some rockets on there. But this will be the strategy that we'll take to get this guy up. And I do want to introduce a mod. It's called Navy Fish's docking mod. We will see that whenever we get close to docking. So the goal will be to get this guy up into some kind of orbit. And if we take a look at our part count here, it is not too bad. So we'll see you then. And I guess we will probably, if you want to see Rendezvous, see the last tutorial, the docking and rendezvous.
Oh
Okay, we are now on our close approach with our fuel tank, and we will be getting pretty close pretty soon. You can see that, at least at this point, we have, we're pretty close, but we're also pretty sluggish. So we're going to need to treat this with some care. I'm just going to, hopefully, get this guy sorted out. It might be good to burn a little bit early. And there we go. This says we're on a close collision course. If we can get about 50 meters away, I think we'll be happy. Perhaps it was a good thing that I did the heaviest item first. But, anyway, once we get within maybe 50 meters or so, we'll just kill our velocity. We do not need, we really do not need to be going any closer to the station given our distance. And here's the deal, we're getting as close as we can, because over time, this is something I forgot to mention in the rendezvous video, but over time what will happen is that these guys here will drift apart. And that's because their orbital period is not quite the same. So we are about lined up, hopefully. And we'll kill our velocity at about 50 or so meters per second. Or 50 meters, rather, not per second. I think that is a reasonable place for us to begin slowing down. Oh, and we missed that burn point just a little bit. That we're moving 1 meter per second now. We might collide with the station, so I'm going to hit the bracket key, and we'll take this guy here, and we will get on the other side. Now I've left this thing docked, this engine, just because of the fact that we need something to keep that thing stable. It's a little bit unstable as is. You can see we're having trouble reaching that, so what we can do is we can click on this guy, we can set it as a target, and we can pull up Flight Engineer, and we'll pick the other docking port at the aft end. Now, it's up to you really how you want to keep this thing aligned. But what we'll do is we will go the other way here. And we will just slowly grab onto that. making sure, of course, that we are pointed in the correct orientation. And this is part of the reason why you want to watch your nav ball and not the screen. If you just get it into the center like this, or thereabout, then you'll more than likely dock. Now this guy is drifting probably because the RCS is a little bit... Oh, you know what it is? The tank is rotating. That can be a bit of a problem. And that's one thing that the docking alignment utility does pretty well. Here we have no choice but to let it rotate. But given our distance, I'm going to give it some gas. You can go up usually to 0.3 meters per second. And, in the extreme case, you can come up here and push this guy down. At any rate, if you turn this off, the RCS off, we should be pretty close to docking. Except we are not aligned properly. So that's something to manage. If it weren't for the fact that this thing was rotating, I think we would otherwise be good. It just can't really handle the reaction wheels on it. And there we go, we are now docked. There's just a couple of things for us to do now. We have leftover fuel in the sky, and so it would be prudent, really, for us to transfer this in. Sorry about that. Anyway, if you Alt-click once you hit that other tank, then you have the option to pump the fuel in, and it goes very quickly because it's a big tank. Now we have to figure out which one of these is our docking port. But before we do that, we probably want to decouple this thing. We will set this guy as a target here. And we want the one on the opposite side, it looks like. So that's the one over there, I think. Or maybe not. That. Oh, we definitely... I think that's it right there. It is interesting that this is named KSS-1 ship. Now you can see it won't be long before we dock here. Not long at all. We are a little bit misaligned, but the docking magnetism will take care of that. So yes, docking can be a tedious process if you are not careful with it. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes I surprise myself in my ability to dock quickly. Anyway, that's our first module here. We can control from here if we'd like. It needs to be a crew report. And we're still roughly aligned where we want to be, which is great. Let's just rename this vessel KSS. Maybe get some other things going, but I'm going to try to get the rest of the modules up here. And I'm going to try to quick save as well. But, yeah, we've got direct sunlight. Everything is so far pretty good. We've got a complete charge. And so let's try to get maybe the solar panels up next. So we are back in the VAB. And these guys, these solar panels are actually pretty lightweight. Or at least so it would seem. So I have an idea with those. I think maybe the first thing for us to do is to take these guys and attach them on the other end like this. And, oh, where did it go? I think that's it right there. We will just grab this guy here, stick him on the end, and then make this guy the root part. And let's call this KSS1 panels. Now, when we throw the rest of this away, you'll find again we have something kind of like this here. And let's just take a look at our mass. This is only 6 tons together. In fact, I'm almost willing to bet the actual fairing might be a little bit heavier. I thought I would just show you all this real quick. This is the vehicle I ended up making. It is way overbuilt. But yeah, we'll this is what we're launching. The fairings are like 30 tons. So this isn't a good idea as it turns out, but in the sake of, or in the name of time rather, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, we are back. This actually turned out to be a terrible idea. It's taken me almost all of my RCS to dock up like this, but it'll be worth it. What we can do is once we decouple this dude, we can dock him. Well, first of all, we'll dock him straight in. And I'm thinking we're moving about as close as we can, although it looks like we are drifting just a little bit. This thing has been, very naughty in that way. And I believe we are just going to be slightly offset. It's hard to tell. Again, you don't really have to be perfect here. You just want to be lined up pretty well. Yeah, this thing definitely, if I had to do it over, I would do it the hard way, or the rather 2 launches. Because this way, as I believe it, is the hard way. At any rate, we're getting pretty close in. And we should dock pretty soon. There we go. Yeah, I would not recommend doing the tall fairing rocket. That is somewhat forbidden. Anyway, we'll do this whole trick where we utilize our resources as much as we can. And we'll even go here. We've got these monopropellant tanks. There's not much monopropellant left in them, but it'll be enough for us to get almost a full refuel off of this. As you can see, I had to turn the station a bit in order to make this work. But the plan being now that we are going to decouple this guy. Maybe, it's a good idea that we maybe try to get this guy centered in back to where it's supposed to be. Anyway, this guy needs to point prograde so it can do its thing. And we should be good here. All we have to do now... Well, I have no idea what happened there. Did something overheat? Must have been that decoupler. Anyway, all we have to do now is grab this dude's docking port. And then it'll be possible for us to, it'll be possible for us to set these guys down. So we're going to undock this guy one more time. Okay, we are taking a little bit of a different approach with this combination of this docking array and this lab. Really 2 things worth pointing out. The first is that I had not thought about where those solar panels would be placed. Fortunately for us, that's actually not that big of a deal, and I'll tell you why. Part of it has to do with the fact that we are able to move parts around at will. That's one of the nice things about these tugs. And so, what we can do, so I'm just going to, I'm going to bring this guy down a little bit, just so that we end up real close, and I'm also going to give it a little bit more gas to this as well. Now, by far the hardest part of this has been that, so it turns out that, this guy here is a lever. And because of that, it's been a little bit difficult getting our docking port aligned. RCS doesn't SAS doesn't quite know what to do with the RCS. Anyway, we're close. And what we'll do is we'll go through and do our little refueling dance that we've been doing. And you might wonder why I am going through the trouble of doing it this way. You can run a separate mission to fuel this thing up, but this is a lot of fuel. And we really want to avoid having to, oh, what's going on here? Right. Am I not hitting Alt? Oh, I see, I'm trying to transfer from the Sepratron. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lab on this node here. And then on the other node, I am going to, the one opposite of the fuel tank, I'm going to put the docking port. The idea is that we shouldn't run into any issues with clipping that way. So I'm going to refuel that. And what I'll do then is I will get this guy set up, and then we're going to send a Kerbal to it. Jeb happens to be in orbit, and we should have somebody manning this station. So we'll put him on and see what happens. Okay, we are in the process of putting in the last piece here, this docking array. And if everything goes well, I think we can send a Kerbal to it. And there we go. This guy is nice and centered. And I'm just going to turn these lights off real quick, because I think this is well worth the screenshot. Let's just grab this. I'll turn on the lights like that. Wow, that is awesome. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get Jeb, because this guy doesn't have a probe core on it. And because of that, there is no real way for this station to be controlled whenever the tug is off of it. So we'll get Jeb on in here, and we will dock him down here. And we will see you then. Okay, we are back, and Jeb's coming in. You can see his fuel isn't so good, but he is not really deterred by that. The main thing is that we will want to get on this side with the Clampertron Jr. So we can scroll through this. And, you know, we can go ahead and get ready, although I guess it would be good for us to slow down just a touch. And, what we can do now is hook this guy in. I'm gonna go at about a meter per sec, or 0.1 meters per second, because, we don't really want to haul ass into this thing. That could be very bad. Maybe we can, at this point, go a little bit faster. There we go, we are docked. And now we just need to do a couple of things. First of all, you might ask, why have I been filling this thing with fuel? In fact, why have I brought a fuel tank with me? Well, just as we can transfer into it, we could transfer out of it as well. So this gives Jeb a full load of fuel. That is rather nice. But in addition to that, it turns out that fuel isn't the only real thing we can transfer. I'm gonna center this guy just a little bit. But what we can do now is we can right click on this guy here on the hatch, or we can left click actually. If you left click on the hatch, you'll get two options. You have EVA and transfer. Now we can click on any habitable part of the space station. So I'm going to put him in the cupola. And now what we're able to do is we're able to look out that cupola. You can see he can make observations about carbon here. Or he can look out into the stars. While I have the opportunity, I'm just going to, well, you know what, we won't bother with changing the name quite yet. I'll do that off screen. Occasionally, KSP has interesting ideas about what should be named, what. Another thing worth mentioning with the crew transfer thing, you do not have to have a solid object to transfer through. So he could actually, if he had a large docking port, he could dock up over here and transfer through these girder segments. For the purposes of realism, I'm kind of not a huge fan of that, but it can be done. You can come up with some sort of weird science fiction explanation for that. So in the next tutorial, we're going to be working on a craft that can transfer more crew up here. But not only that, we're going to be going about the rocket design in a little bit more sane of a manner. So until then, this has been Thy Lord Root, and I will see you later.